the President said he spoke for Australia on Iraq, does he?
Well, he was saying that we both would like to see a prosperous Iran. We'd like to see the people of Iran, well, let's see the people right across the world to be able to benefit from prosperous economies doing well. That's what we want. This is why Australia and the United States have always worked so closely together, is because that's what we want for our own people, that's what we want for everyone.
And we've been speaking a lot about this subject, the two of us. I think we have very similar views on the subject. Steve?
Do you want to address this whistleblower story?
Wait a minute, please.
Do you want to address this whistleblower story?
What story?
The whistleblower.
It's a ridiculous story. It's a partisan whistleblower. I shouldn't even have information. I've had conversations with many leaders that are always appropriate. I think Scott can tell you that. Always appropriate, at the highest level always appropriate. And anything I do, I fight for this country. I fight so strongly for this country. It's just another political hack job. That's all it is.
On that point, did you discuss Joe Biden, his son, or his family with the leader?
It doesn't matter what I discuss, but I will say this. Somebody ought to look into Joe Biden's statement, because it was disgraceful, where he talked about billions of dollars that he's not giving to a certain country unless a certain prosecutor's taken off the case. So somebody ought to look into that, and you wouldn't, because he's a Democrat. And the fake news doesn't look into things like that. It's a disgrace. But I had a great conversation with numerous people. I don't even know exactly who you're talking about, but I had a great conversation with numerous people, numerous leaders, and I always look for the conversation that's going to help the United States the most. That's very important.
Do you know the identity of the whistleblower? Do you know the identity?
I don't know the identity of the whistleblower. I just hear it's a partisan person, meaning it comes out from another party. But I don't have any idea. But I can say that it was a totally appropriate conversation. It was actually a beautiful conversation. And this is no different than, you know, the press has had a very bad week with Justice Kavanaugh and all of those ridiculous charges and all of the mistakes made at the New York Times and other places. You've had a very bad week, and this will be better than all of them. This is another one. So keep playing it up, because you're going to look really bad when it falls. You know, I guess I'm about 22-0, and I'll keep it that way. I don't want to talk about any conversation other than to say, great conversation, totally appropriate conversation, couldn't have been better. And keep asking questions and build it up as big as possible so you can have a bigger downfall.
Mr. President, will you be asking Australia to do more when it comes to China?
Say it what?
Will you be asking Australia to do more when it comes to China?
Well, we're talking about China all the time, and Scott has very strong opinions on China. And I think I'd let him maybe express those opinions. Maybe you do it right now. You're not going to get a better audience than this.
We have a comprehensive strategic partnership with China. We work well with China. But as we've spoken many times, we need to ensure that as countries develop and realise their potential, well, they come onto a whole new level. And that means there can't be special rules around that. And we have a great relationship with China. China's growth has been great for Australia, but we need to make sure that we all compete on the same playing field. And this is something that the United States and Australia have been very consistent on, that we need to move into this new world where economies are changing. China is a big economy, not as big as the United States, but it's a big economy. And that means we've all got to get on the same page with how the rules work. And that's what we're working to achieve.
I will say this, we're making a lot of progress with China. They're having a very bad year, worst year in 57 years. The tariffs are coming in to us. We're taking in billions and billions of dollars of tariffs. They're devaluing their currency, which means the tariffs are not costing us probably anything, but certainly not very much. They're also adding a lot of money into their economy. They're pouring money into their economy. But we're taking in many billions of dollars. At some point in the not too distant future, it'll be over $100 billion. We've never taken in 100 cents from China. It was always the other way around. With that, they've lost over 3 million jobs. Their supply chain is crashing, and they have a lot of problems. And I can tell you, they want to make a deal. That I can tell you, they want to make a deal. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Always prepared. There's never been a country more prepared. There's never been a country more prepared. Look, I spent I spent $1.5 trillion, and we're spending another $738 billion now, but I've spent $1.5 trillion rebuilding our military. We have the finest ships, the finest planes, the finest everything, and actually Scott and Australia, they've purchased a lot of great stuff from the United States, some of the best military equipment that you have. We have the greatest missiles in the world, rockets in the world, jet fighters in the world, planes in the world, ships, and we have under construction a number of the most powerful submarines ever built, and they're getting very close to completion. We have the largest ship in the world right now, the President Gerald Ford, the aircraft carrier. It's the largest ship ever built, and just flew over it yesterday, actually. It's massive and beautiful. We have the greatest, and I have to say this, when I got here, Scott, it was a different world. It was a different world. We were very depleted. And I actually saw one of the related networks today saying how strongly and good and how well we've done with ISIS. I defeated the caliphate. And when I came, the caliphate was all over the place. I defeated the caliphate, ISIS. And now we have thousands of prisoners of war, ISIS fighters that are prisoners of war. And we're asking the countries from which they came, Scott, from Europe, we're asking them to take back these prisoners of war. And they can try them, do what they want. So far, they've refused. And at some point, I'm going to have to say, I'm sorry, but you either take them back or we're going to let them go at your border. But they came out from Germany. They came out from France. We captured them. We did everyone a big favor. We've taken over the caliphate 100%. If you remember, I was thinking about getting out when it was at 96, 97%. But they were all over the place, and we did it. We did it in record time. It was a total caliphate victory, and now I want the countries to take back the captured ISIS fighters. And if they don't take them back, we're going to probably put them at the border, and then they'll have to capture them again. Because the United States is not going to have thousands and thousands of people that we've captured, stationed at Guantanamo Bay, held captive at Guantanamo Bay for the next 50 years, and us spending billions and billions of dollars. We've done Europe a tremendous favor. They mostly come out of Europe, and we've done them a tremendous favor. And the United States is not going to pay the cost of thousands and thousands of ISIS fighter prisoners in Guantanamo Bay or someplace else. We won't do it. So they have to make their decision. Otherwise, we're releasing them at the border. Go ahead, next.
Would you be ready to meet your national security team on Iran today? What do you expect to hear from them?
Yeah, I have a great new person. You know, Robert O'Brien. A lot of people wanted Robert very badly. He was, look, I had 10, 12 people that I thought were fantastic for the job. I think
He's
Robert,
a good friend of Australia, too.
He's
Robert.
a great friend of Australia. Scott was telling me he was very happy with the choice. Robert is going to be outstanding. He just picked a deputy who was in the administration. You all know him. You know who the deputy is. I guess they have to announce that separately, but he's fantastic. And essentially, he's already on the job. But you know, he did a tremendous job as hostage negotiator. We have a tremendous record. Nobody comes close to our record with hostages.
But are you going to be discussing options for Iran today with your team?
Sure, sure. But also with Secretary of Defense, Secretary of State. We're discussing with everybody. And, you know, the early move today was the Central Bank of Iran. Okay?
Mr. President, the U.S. is moving toward military conflict, and would you support that, Mr. Prime Minister, a military strike?
It's always possible.
Would you expect Australia to join in any military action?
We haven't discussed that. We'll be discussing that later. But we haven't discussed that yet.
So would you consider 50% tariffs or even 100% tariffs on China, as some have suggested?
I'm not going to get into that. Right now, China's paying 30% on $250 billion. That starts in another couple of weeks. As you know, President Xi called through his top people, and they have a 70th anniversary, very important day for them, and it happens to be October 1st, which is the exact date of the increase in the tariff. And they asked us, out of respect, would I delay the tariff a little bit? I said, how about if I move it forward? Let me move it forward a little bit, because they didn't want it to fall on the same day. It's exactly October 1st. So I said, let me move it up a couple of weeks. They said, no, could you? So out of respect for President Xi, who I do have great respect for, I moved it back 2 weeks. but right now it's 25%. It goes up to 30% on October 15th. No, I haven't. I just tell you, it is, everybody's read it, they laugh at it. And it's another media disaster. The media has lost so much credibility in this country. Our media has become the laughingstock of the world. When you look at what they did to Justice Kavanaugh and so many other things last week, I think this is one of the worst weeks in the history of the fake news media. You have been wrong on so many things, and this one will be, I wouldn't say it will top the list, because I think you can't do worse than some of the stories you missed over the last week or two. But the media of our country is laughed at all over the world now. You're a joke. Okay, what else?
Mr. President, can we just clarify, when you talk about the conversation that you...
Which conversation?
Well, we're trying to figure out what conversation...
Well, figure it out. You're supposed to be the media. Figure it out. It was... Which conversation?
July 25th with the President.
I really don't know. I don't know.
What I know about space.
We think it was with one of the leaders of
Can you talk about
Ukraine.
the starting a new space program to the moon, sir, and what does that mean for both countries?
So we're doing a great program. We have Vice President Pence is very much involved, and we have a tremendous space program. If you look at our facilities, they were virtually closed up. There was crabgrass growing on the runways, and now they're vital. And you know, we're going to Mars. We're stopping at the moon. The moon is actually a launching pad. That's why we're stopping at the moon. I said, hey, we've already done the moon. That's not so exciting. They said, no, sir, it's a launching pad for Mars. So we'll be doing the moon, but we'll really be doing Mars, and we're making tremendous progress. In addition, rich people like to send up rocket ships. So between Bezos and Elon Musk and others, we're leasing them our launch facilities, which you can't get. There are no launch facilities like this. This is big stuff. So we're in Texas and Florida, we're leasing them our facilities so they can send up whatever they want to send up. It's okay with us. And they've actually done very well. They've said they've had great success, but rich people in this country, I don't know about your country, but they like building rocket ships and sending them up, and it's okay with us.
Will an Australian astronaut get a ticket?
Say it?
Will an Australian astronaut be on board?
Well, I'll let it. I think Scott and I would rather take a pass, though. I don't know. Would you like to be on there? I think I'm not sure, but I know him pretty well. I think he and I will take a pass. But there are a lot of people that want to go up, and I have great respect for the astronauts. That's an incredible
More
business.
critical minerals from Australia, and how important is that industry?
Say it again.
Do you want to buy more critical minerals from Australia, and how
Yeah.
important is that industry?
Well, Australia's mineral industry is massive. It's far bigger than that. I mean, very few countries have anything approaching what Australia has in terms of mineral wealth. And you've really taken advantage of it, and you've done it in a very environmentally sensitive way. I know that's very important to you. It's very important to Scott. We talk about it a lot because that business can get out of control a little bit from the standpoint of environment, and you have really approached it in an environmentally sensitive way. Coal, as an example, you're the leader of safety in coal digging, and we've actually studied it because we're doing a lot of coal. And you have very little. You almost have no, you used to have a thing, black lung disease, and in Australia, you almost don't have it anymore. You've got all of the dust down, and they become wet mines, basically, but it's great.
A very technologically advanced industry.
Incredible.
In Australia, all of our resources industry are from the robotics that's involved in the production and all the way through. But that critical mineral space, these are the things we're going to be talking about, because Australia has a wonderful partnership with the United States, not just militarily, not just strategically, but also economically. And that's going to be a big part of this conversation we have today.
And environmentally, I have to say, and environmentally, the things that they've done environmentally with digging. Digging is when you talk minerals, it's about digging, and what you've been able to do with the environment, having to do with taking minerals out of the ground, including, and I would say even especially because you're leading on coal. I will tell you, I sent a whole crew over because your record is so good in terms of illnesses from digging. better than anybody in the world. So we're going to catch you on that. Okay?
You invited the President to Australia, and how do you introduce him to the term bubble here?
We'll talk about that over dinner tonight, I'm sure. He has another term for it here in Washington, I understand. No, we have talked about whether, if his schedule and Mrs. Trump permits, whether they take in the President's Cup later in the year, which is going to be a great tournament, a tremendous tournament. The President knows a lot more about golf than I do, and he certainly swings a club way better than I do. He's got a busy year coming up next year. He's going to do great there. But if he has the opportunity, if Mrs. Trump has the opportunity, it's going to be a great spectacle down in Australia this year.
Interestingly, the PGA Tour invited me to go. And I would love to do it. We'll have to see what the schedule is, but I would love to do it. It's a very exciting tournament, nothing more exciting. And having it in Australia, where you have so many great golfers, Greg Norman is a friend of mine and a great friend of yours, I know, and I think he's going to be here tonight.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
The First Lady has done an incredible job tonight. We're going to have it for either the first time or certainly one of the few times in the Rose Garden. And it's going to be, I watched yesterday the rehearsal, and she was out there, and it's going to be incredible. Tonight's going to be a beautiful night, and the only thing that can dampen it would be rain, and we're not expecting any rain. But if it rains, we head over to the stateroom, and we'll be just fine. But we're really expecting, I hope you're going to be able to see it tonight for a little while. Probably you will. We'll sort of make sure that you do. It's beautiful.
On the UN, how critical is it that you build a coalition to address Iran's latest provocations, and does that start today?
Well, I always like a coalition. Sometimes you find that people have made a lot of money that you'd won in the coalition. They've made a lot of money with Iran, which is, when President Obama made that deal, not only was it a bad deal, but the United States didn't partake in a business sense, and other countries, Germany, France, Russia, many other countries made a lot of money with Iran, and we didn't make money with Iran. That was just one of the many bad parts about the deal. Everyone else is making money and we're not. So we'll see what happens. Look, the United States is in a class by itself. We have the most powerful military in the world by far. There's nobody close. As you know, we've spent tremendous, and hopefully, and we pray to God we never have to use it, but we've totally renovated and bought new nuclear. And the rest of our military is all brand new. The nuclear now is at a level that it's never been before. And I can only tell you, because I know the problems of nuclear, I know the damages that, I know what happens. And I want to tell you, we all hope, and Scott hopes, we all pray that we never have to use nuclear. But there's nobody that has anywhere close to what we have.
Mr. President, what is your message to UNGA?
Well, UNGA is going to be very exciting, and we look forward to it. We'll be there. You'll be there?
Yeah, I'll be there later this week. Yeah.
And for you, it's a much longer trip.
It is a bit, yeah.
But we look forward to it. We have a big message for UNGA. We have a big message, and I haven't been back to New York in a long time. I see that our part-time mayor will be now going back to New York, so he'll be able to work a little bit harder. But he dropped out of the presidential race a little while ago. Too bad. He had tremendous potential. He only had one real asset. You know what it was? Height. Other than that, he had nothing going. Okay, what else?
Given that President Trump has indicated that he will be discussing military action in Iran, what is Australia's attitude?
Well, I think the United States has taken a very measured and calibrated approach to date. And the thing about our partnership is we always listened to whatever requests are made, and Australia always considers them and in our national interests, and we have good conversations about these things. But the thing is, both of us, we never get ahead of ourselves on these things. We just, you take this one step at a time, and we keep talking to each other. That's what we've always done wherever we've worked together, and we're going to keep doing that. We've got such an open line of communication. I appreciate the fact the President and I talk about these things, even when we're not together, and we're going to keep doing that, and we'll just take these things one step at a time.
You know, the easiest thing for me to do, and maybe it's even a natural instinct, maybe I have to hold myself back. I remember during the debates and when I was running against Hillary and the Democrats and the media, I view them all the same. I view that partnership very much the same. But when I was running, everybody said, oh, he's going to get into war. He's going to get into war. He's going to blow everybody up. He's going to get into war. Well, the easiest thing I could do, in fact, I could do it while you're here, would say, go ahead, fellas, go do it. and that would be a very bad day for Iran. That's the easiest thing I could do. It's so easy. And for all of those that say, oh, they should do it, it shows weakness, it shows, actually, in my opinion, it shows strength. Because the easiest thing I could do, okay, go ahead, knock out 15 different major things in Iran. I could do that and all set to go. It's all set to go. But I'm not looking to do that if I can. I think I've changed a lot of minds. People are very surprised that, and many people are extremely happy. Many people are thrilled, and many people are saying, oh, I wish you'd hit the hell out of them. Well, let's see what happens. But it will take place in 1 minute. I could do it right here in front of you, and that would be it. And then you'd have a nice big story to report. And I think it shows far more strength to do it the way we're doing it. And again, whether it's next week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, doesn't make any difference. Whether it's now or in 3 weeks, doesn't make any difference. But I think the strong person's approach and the thing that does show strength would be showing a little bit of restraint. Much easier to do it the other way. It's much easier. And Iran knows if they misbehave, they're on borrowed time. They're not doing well. I'd like to see them do great. I'd love to see them do great, but they're not doing well. They're doing very poorly. They're doing far worse than they've ever done before. They're having riots in their streets. They're having a lot of problems in Iran right now. They could solve it very quickly. But the easiest thing for me to do is say, okay, let's go. Let's just do it. Very easy for me to do. But it is interesting because when I was campaigning, everybody here thought that I was going to be like, it would be one day. But what I have done is I've defeated ISIS. I've rebuilt our military to a level that it's never been before. Spent a lot of money. The budgets are not so hard to fix for me, but when you're spending $1.5 trillion so far, now another 738 billion on the military, but think of it, $1.5 trillion, and we have the greatest in the world. But I think restraint is a good thing. I think it's a good thing.
Mr. President,
how do you plan to bring peace in Afghanistan? Peace in Afghanistan, how the process will happen?
Yeah, well, we were thinking about having a meeting. I didn't like the idea that they couldn't produce a ceasefire. I wasn't in favor of that. I said, no, if they can't produce a ceasefire, why are we bothering? And they thought that it was a sign of strength to kill 12 people, wound others, badly wound some others. And one of those 12 people was a young man, young soldier from Puerto Rico, from our country. And when I heard that, I said, I don't want to deal with them anymore. We have hit, in Afghanistan, we have hit the Taliban harder than they've ever been hit in the entire 19 years of war. They've been hit harder. It's come back to me through absolutely impeccable sources that they're saying, wow, we made a mistake with this guy. They made a mistake. I was totally willing to have a meeting. I'll meet with anybody. I think meetings are good. I think meetings are good. There's no such thing as, oh, gee, we shouldn't. I really believe meetings are good. Worst that happens, does it work out? That's okay. Even then, you get to know your opposition. Don't forget, I'm looking at them like they're looking at me. You get to know your opposition. You can see if they're real. Sometimes you develop a relationship like we do, but sometimes you develop, and many times you won't. But you get to know your opposition. I think the best thing that's happened to this country is the fact that, at least for 3 years, the fact that I have a very good relationship with Kim Jong-un. I think that's a positive. His country has tremendous potential. He knows that. But our country has been playing around for 50 years and getting nothing. And we have a relationship. There's never been a relationship with them. We'll see what happens. It might work out. It might not work out. I'm not saying it will. But in the meantime, he hasn't been testing any nuclear. You've had no nuclear tests since for a long time. And he has been doing some short-range missiles, but so does every other country do short-range missiles. Every country is doing them. They're pretty standard fare. But no, I will tell you that we've never had a country so strong. We're just a couple of points away from a new stock market all-time high. And I think we've done it over 112 times. There's a certain number, whatever it may be. I don't want to be specific because if I give you the wrong number, we'll have breaking news. It'll be on every newspaper that I said 112 and it was actually 111. And it'll be breaking news. They'll give me a Pinocchio. But let me just tell you, The country's never been in this position. We have the strongest military we've ever had. And now we've rebuilt it. After this $738 billion, we really have a rebuilt military. It's a great thing. And some of our friends are doing the same thing. I can tell you Australia's military is unbelievable. I saw the order that they put in for some of our most sophisticated equipment. And I said, that's really great what you're doing. They've really upped it. And I want to congratulate you. I mean, you have really done a job on your military.
We have. Up to 2% of GDP next year, so
right
in the middle of a $200 billion upgrade.
Right.
Biggest increase in our defence as a share of GDP since the Second World War.
Yeah.
Mr. President, leaks continuously during the election campaign. Is it right that the United States is prosecuting its Australian founder, Julian Assange?
Well, you know, that's a question I haven't heard in a long time. I'll leave that for you to determine.
Mr. President,
can I get some clarity from you on your thinking on China? Is it just a trade issue for you, or do you see China as a strategic threat to the United States?
Well, obviously China is a threat to the world in a sense because they're building a military faster than anybody. And frankly, they're using U.S. money. Presidents before me have allowed China to take out $500 billion a year, and it's really more than that. They've allowed China to steal our intellectual property and property rights, and I'm not doing that. And we actually very close to having a deal. You know, we were very close. We had intellectual property. All of the tough things were negotiated. And then at the last moment, Scott, they said, we cannot agree to this. I said, that's all right. We're charging you 25% tariffs, and then it's going up. And it'll continue to go up. And frankly, we're making so many hundreds of the numbers that we're taking in to our Treasury. And you see it, because sometimes you'll see, look at the good reports. Look at the great reports that came out 2 days ago on retailing, on consumers, on numbers that nobody believes. Well, I think a lot of it, we're taking hundreds of millions potentially over a short period of time. Hundreds of billions of dollars worth of money is coming in from China that never came in before. So China wants to make a deal. I think we want to make a deal. We'll see what happens. But I view China in many different ways. But right now I'm thinking about trade. But you know, trade equals military. Because if we allow China to take $500 billion out of the hide of the United States, that money goes into military and other things.
Mr. President, your reaction to Justin Trudeau survive this controversy?
You know, I was hoping I wouldn't be asked that question. It had to be you that asked it. You had to ask me that question, right, Justin? I'm surprised. And I was more surprised when I saw the number of times. And, you know, I've always had a good relationship with Justin. I just don't know what to tell you. I was surprised by it, actually.
Mr. President, the last Australian Prime Minister to receive an official state visit was described by the then President as a man of steel. How do you describe our Prime Minister?
I would say a man of titanium. You know, titanium's much tougher than steel. He's a man of titanium. Believe me, I have to deal with this guy. He's not easy. You might think he's a nice guy, okay? He's a man of real strength and a great guy. And his wife is lovely, and I want to thank you, and I want to thank Melania for the work.
Yeah, thank you.
And I hope you're going to be able to see, because Melania she's worked very hard for Australia.
Yes, she has.
And you've done a fantastic, it's so beautiful, and it'll be so different. And we look up to the skies, and we're just going to hope that it's not going to rain, and if it is, that's okay too, because that'll work out also. It always works out. Thank you all very much. Thank